Yo guys, what is going on? Blossoms back and welcome back to another episode of Top Drives and another episode of What Can You Get From That Pack, the series where we dive a little bit deeper into a special tag challenge carbon fiber or any kind of carbon fiber for that fact, and we answer one simple question. Is it worth opening? Is it worth spending your hard-earned cash and gold on? Well, today's tag that we're diving into is Coast to Coast. And let's talk about Coast to Coast for a brief little second, okay? I appreciate the idea surrounding this tag. It is pretty cool. Look, I'm going to use the actual Hutch post that explains Coast to Coast, right? So I'll put it on screen too. Firstly, the cars. Do you have what it takes to race from coast to coast? Our new collection series is inspired, keyword inspired, by the legendary outlaw road race, the Cannonball Run. You'll have a chance to race across America from New York to California in a collection of recording-breaking coast-to-coast cars. So here's the pretty interesting thing. In a collection of record-breaking coast-to-coast cars. I love the idea. So much so that I went to go and, research it myself. I want to know every single car that has, done, the Cannonball Run. I couldn't find a lot of these cars. Like, okay, I knew a little bit about the Cannonball Run before. The two main cars that I would think of when I think of Cannonball Run is the E63, which got hit by a truck, unfortunately, and that means a lot to me because the E63 that did the Cannonball Run is a W212, which is the same generation of E-Class as my own car. So yeah, I'm glad that the E63 is here. Some other really, infamous or famous cars that did the Cannonball Run would be the Audi A8. As well as the Audi A6. And I'm really surprised that the Audi A6 has not been included here. I'll show you right now. I mean, this is the current record breaker. It was an Audi A6 that was made to look like a Ford Taurus. So that's why the front looks a little bit different with that really beautiful Audi logo, with the Ford-inspired Audi logo. So I'm really surprised that didn't make it. There was also this one guy that rented like a Mustang. I think it was like a Mustang GT. He did it as well. But I think he was disqualified. But at least the time is out there. Someone did try and use a Mustang. But I can't find anything else. I never found anyone online that did the Cannonball Run in a Holden HSV Maloo or even a Porsche Taycan GTS, which is a pretty damn new car. It came out in 2022, and I'm pretty sure that's the thing, right? I don't really know. The last person to break the record was, I believe, in 2021 with that Audi A6. Obviously these cars could have done it before without breaking any records, but I genuinely can't find any Cannonball winners or Cannonball attempts in a Porsche Taycan GTS. Like, in my opinion, I feel like Hutch kind of added their own creative liberties to it, and they kind of just asked themselves, what cars would pass the Cannonball Run? What would be a good car to use for the Cannonball Run? Because there was this one website that I saw, it was like top 10 cars to use if you wanted to attempt the Cannonball Run, and one of those cars among the top 10 was the C8 Stingray. So as far as I could find in my research, a Stingray has never done it, but there's a website that recommends the Stingray. You know what I mean? Like, it's one of those, man. It's one of those. And honestly, I'm just genuinely surprised that the C6 isn't here. They could have even put in a Ford Taurus over here for shits and giggles. But yeah, strange. Very strange. But anyway, let's get into it. We're going to start off with the BMW M5. And this requires a special tag challenge. I have 3 of them fully upgraded. As always, if you want to agree or disagree, comment down in the comments below. But I own the M5. I have it 3 different ways, right? I've got 332, 323, 233, and the older this car gets, the less I use it. I mean, the span of when I use it increases. So back when Top Drives was brand stinking new, 2017, this was among some of the first cars there. I was using it all the time. Then one update comes and I might use it every week, and then 2 update comes and then I use it every 2 weeks, and now we're like 12, 13 updates since the beginning, way more than that probably. How many car updates have we had in total, actually? And I use this car maybe once every 3 years. Like, it's actually crazy. The next one is the BMW M5. This is the newer generation. I don't know what the tag, I don't know what the model is called. Like, not model, but the generation. Is it F10? No, it's not F10. I'm not a BMW guy, I apologize. But it's highly versatile. It's Blossom choice, right? It's like one of the best dragsters in the game. It's a saloon. It's a 5-seater, right? It's got amazing MRA, ridiculously low 0 to 60. And even if you get it at 233, I mean, it's It's great drags here at 332, but even if you get it at 233, the M5 is, I believe, the best, if not one of the best fast circuit ultra rares in the game as well. So that's a really, really good one to get. Now the next one is the Buick Envision. The Buick Envision has decent handling when you fully upgraded, but then again, bro, they made it the only option. I mean, this is one all-surface tire four-wheel drive car that came in an update full of four-wheel drive all-surface tire cars. You're not going to be using the Buick Envision outside of this tag, and even in this tag, I don't think there'll be much use for it as well, because there's the Cadillac Escalade Sport, which in my opinion requires a special tag challenge. One really interesting thing about the Cadillac is I just don't know why it's the same RQ as the IQ. They're both RQ59. This fully upgraded is 4376 with 53 MRA, four-wheel drive and all-surface tires. This is 3.977 with also four-wheel drive and all-surface tires, and it has 20 more MRA, and they're both the same. Like, usually in these kind of scenarios, you'd be like, oh, maybe one car has way better MRA or one car has way higher top speed. They both get 130 miles per hour when you max them out. And the only difference between these two cars is an entire Bentley, 2,000 pounds, 2,000 kilograms, which is insane. But at the end of the day, I mean, performance speaks for itself. The Cadillac Escalade IQ is always going to be better. And the only reason I think the Escalade Sport is kind of decent in is maybe Ocean Beach Slalom. As you can see, Ocean Beach Slalom, it's able to beat a lot of 59s and is able to beat a lot of, just cars within its niche. But obviously you put it up against the best of the best. I mean, the Escalade IQ beating the Ford Explorer on Ocean Beach Slalom wet is actually really impressive. And this car is going to be really, really, really useful. That being said though, that's not the one we're talking about. We're talking about the Escalade Sport. Unfortunately, that requires a special tag challenge. The Cadillac CT4V looks pretty good. I'm going to put it in versatile. It's definitely the premier ultra rare medium ground clearance performance tire American overdrive car. It is better on City Street small and medium against the Camaro, and I know this very well because I own 3 of the Camaros, and I really want the Camaro to be the best because I own 3 of them, and I'm biased towards the Camaro, but I don't. And it's a CT4, and I would love to get the CT4 from this pack. It's a fantastic car. It handles well for its niche. It handles, I think, one of the best for its niche, especially now that the Ultra RQ59 BMW was nerfed. Okay, moving on to the Benzes. We're gonna start with the S55 AMG. That's gonna require a special tag challenge, and the S63 AMG requires some criteria. And it's really simple for these two ratings. It's just that the S55, is just a little bit worse than the S63. So they're both, decent cars with medium ground clearance. They're both saloons. They both have really good MRA. They both have the same top speed, but one is just slightly better than the other. Next up is the Volvo V70R, and again, it just requires a special tag challenge. I feel like the V70R has been in quite a decent amount of special tag challenges, actually. It's one of the more frequent cars that you would see included in a special tag challenge. I can't remember off the top of my head what were the other special tag challenges that the Volvo V70R was in, but I believe one of them was one of the Lunar New Year of the Ox, Dragon, Tiger, Rabbit, whatever it is. It's year 2000, so it's actually this year. Yeah, it's Year of the Dragon, isn't it? So there you go. Now moving on is the Audi A8. Yeah, they made it the only option. That thing is useless. I've unpacked this car 3-4 times since World Expo, and I've never used it. Never, ever. I've used 3 away. I still have one in my garage, and it's very close to just being fused again. Let's talk about the 4-wheel drive BMW standard tire cars. We're gonna start with the 740D. I'm gonna put that in, requires a special tag challenge. I think I would have bumped it up higher before Enter the Black Forest, but now with Enter the Black Forest and more 4-wheel drive BMW saloons, this 740D is just gonna go down in the pecking order, mainly because it doesn't handle as well. The BMW 530D is a lot better, and I would put it in requires some criteria. It feels a little bit mean of me to put it, these two BMWs in these two ranks. There is an opportunity, a chance, which I bumped them up both by 1. I'll think about that. We're gonna get to the Buick Regal. I mean, yeah, that's trash. The Cadillac ATS-V Coupe is highly versatile. Now, usually when a brand new update comes, the old guard kind of gets backstabbed or ran over by a truck or anything like that. Like, take the Cadillac ELR, for example, right? HUD has been trying to kill that thing for years, and they finally did it when they changed it to performance tires. I'm really surprised. The Cadillac ATS-V dodged a bullet. It did get nerfed. Right? Because it got a handling cut from 88 to 87, but it still remains a pretty damn good car. If I remember correctly, even against a new Blackwing, The ATS-V is the better car for the city street small. It's either the small or the medium, but I'm leaning towards small because there was one event where I kept leaving this on the small. It's a good one. It kind of tanked it, you know. It's still a very useful car, even with all the new Cadillacs that were added to the game. It wasn't as good as it used to be, but it definitely isn't redundant or irrelevant or obscure. Anyway, moving on is the Chevrolet Corvette Stingray C8. Yeah, that's highly versatile, dude. Like, this thing is like the best hairpin car in the game. We've already talked about this car in my overrated or rightly rated series, overrated or overpowered series, and the Corvette will bring you major value. Like, I would love to get any of these 4 cars from the carbon fiber anytime, and like the good cars are really good. That's what I'm starting to see about this pack. The good cars are really good. The Chevrolet SS is next. Bro, they made it the only option. I mean, it's Australian, right? So it's going to be competing against other Australian cars, and they're just better options to use, like the Holden HSV, especially for like city streets and all that kind of stuff. I'm not putting the Holden HSV in this rank. I'm only putting it side by side to the SS to give you guys a clearer photo of why I'm putting this car in the lowest rank, why I'm putting the Chevy SS in the lowest rank. So for the Holden HSV Maloo, I'm going to put that in versatile, mainly because it's classified as a ute. It's a ute. The MRA is good. Medium ground clearance. Actually, I want to talk about the Chevrolet SS actually one more time. I might move it up to a special tag challenge, or maybe even some criteria. And the only reason is that there are not a lot of medium ground clearance Chevrolets. So if you need to use a medium ground clearance Chevrolet, the Chevrolet SS might be a pretty decent one for you to use. I'm actually kind of interested. Let's go to VAR real quick. We'll talk about that one later. So let's go to VAR real quick. Clear cars, clear, right? Let's go to filters, clear that too. I'm going to look for Chevrolet. So Chevrolet is going to be here, and I'm going to be looking for medium or high ground clearance. Yeah, I mean, if it's, yeah, that's it, man. I think that's the only thing, right? Like, it's got that niche. It's got that niche on lockdown, right? So if we put in, it's not a good car. It's not a good Australian car. It's not a good saloon, but it might be a decent Chevrolet in these 2 track sets alone. So I guess if you play a lot of clubs, yeah, I guess if you play a lot of clubs and it's Chevrolet ×5 and it's Dragon City, then the Chevy SS will come in so clutch for you. But yeah, it requires a special tag challenge. I wouldn't even say some criteria. It requires like the most niche of criteria for it to be really good, but it's enough to bump it up by 1. The Lincoln Continental is up next. I think requires some criteria, and honestly, I'm going to bump up the BMW one as well because I'm putting the Continental and requires some criteria. Handling is everything when it comes to these cars, and 76 isn't too bad, and because of that, I'm going to bump up the BMW up 1 because it handles a little bit better. But the best one goes to the Cadillac CT6, which isn't even in this niche. Moving on to the Mercedes AMG E63. Ooh, how biased am I going to be, right? Because like I told you that I love the W212. It's absolutely phenomenal. Here, I have this car fully upgraded, and that's because I love this generation of Mercedes, and I do use my car from time to time. The main strength for the AMG E63S is City Street Small. You want to put it on City Street Small, and it will be a pretty decent car. It's got a really low 0 to 60 for its RQ, but it doesn't handle too well, right? So that's one thing that you need to remember when you're using this car. I might be a little bit biased, but I'm going to put it and require some criteria. It's got a ridiculously low 0 to 60. It's a great ocean city street / city street small car, and you can use it on shorter drags in like medium ground clearance or saloon events. Moving on is the Porsche Taycan GTS. This is one of the best 4-wheel drive performance tire, low ground clearance cars in the game, and I'm going to put that in highly versatile. That and the red Taycan are they're the benchmark, right, for 4-wheel drive performance tire cars. So yeah, they're really strong. Now moving on is the Audi R8 V10. I'm gonna put that in. We'll talk about that in a bit. We'll talk about that. I want to move on to the Cadillac CT6V first. I want to say, bro, they made it the only option because unlike, okay, so the Chevrolet SS, that's the best medium or high ground clearance Chevrolet. The Cadillac CT6V isn't even the best medium or high ground clearance. Like, it isn't even the best option for the City Streets Cadillac meta, right? That being said, 4-wheel drive, medium ground clearance, and performance tires, there are not a lot of American cars that carries that niche. But the Cadillac CT6V does. But the only way you would get value out of this car is if you fully upgrade it. And why would anybody want to fully upgrade an RQ8C1? I love the car. Personally and ironically, I think I would fully upgrade that car. But it's not going to bring any value because the majority of the players are going to keep it. If they ever get it, they're going to keep it at 1 star, and at 1 star, that thing is going to get you nothing at all. The Cadillac Lyric as well, all-wheel drive. I want to talk about this car because, yeah, it's got 87 MRA or whatever it is. Yeah, 87. Doesn't really matter, dude. It loses to epic, literally it loses to epic American four-wheel drive center tire cars in the twisty scenario. The only thing that it wins is Canyon Tour. Yes, the main argument is that yes, it has MRA, but the moment you put in the Cadillac 16, which is also a Cadillac, I mean, you need an event that literally bends over for this car for it to be useful. It needs to be a drag-specific four-wheel drive standard tire American event where you cannot use the 16, and it needs to be drags because if not, you'd be using the CT6 or the Fusion Sport anyway. These are all upgraded at 111 because no one is, crazy enough to fully upgrade it and put the times in. But the rule of thumb is if the 111 can't beat an epic, if a 111 legend can't beat a 111 epic, then what are the odds that the 111 legend is going to be? What are the odds that a fully upgraded legend is going to beat a fully upgraded epic? You know what I mean? So yeah, dude. Lyric, not looking good, man. Not looking good. I'm putting it in the trash tier. Another one in the trash tiers is Range Rover. A lot of people, not a lot, but some people gave me stick because I unpacked that before the Coast to Coast Challenge came out, and I sold it. Remember that? I guarantee you, dude, even if I sold it, it's not going to make a difference. It's the only all-surface tire car there. They're not going to make the only high-end all-surface tire car there. They're not going to throw in like a motocross track on the final level where they made that a gatekeeper. That would give Hutch so much flack that like no one's gonna respect the game. It's not like a lot of people do anyway. Moving on is the Audi R8 V10. I was holding off this car for quite some time, and that's because I don't rate it really. It's one of those jack of all trades, master of none. We've already talked about this car once before, which I believe was in World Expo. And it just doesn't bring much value to the table. Then we have the Chevrolet Corvette Z51. This one, I kind of want to put it and require some criteria, maybe even lower. It's going to be a great hairpin car if you can fully upgrade it. But not a lot of people are going to fully upgrade that car. At a 1-star RQ82, that will only get like, 93 handling? I think it's 90 stock, right? It's not going to bring a lot of value to the table, to be honest. I'm going to put it and require some criteria. Last but not least is the Lamborghini Aventador Roadster. One of the better Lamborghinis in the game, I would admit. But that isn't really saying much, really. I'm going to put it and require some criteria as well. I think one thing that people are going to give me a lot of slack for, I don't know why I'm saying flack for, is the Chevrolet CE-RV. Alright, y'all, yeah, I was stumped. I really want to like the car, but again, VAR, I gave this a lot of thought and consideration. The CE-RV 3, or the Serve 3, I mean, it's only good in its niche on the really long stuff, like the test pull, the 0 to 150, the 1 mile, the fast circuit. It's like the four-wheel drive low ground clearance performance tire version of like a Ford GT90, for example, right? It's not a good car in the twisty scenarios. In fact, it's the worst. Whew. I mean, I want to like the car, but again, it requires some criteria. It'll be useful in some niche situations, but I'm gonna bring that down. But anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. This is going to be my, rankings of the cars from the Coast to Coast series. It's an interesting one because I think it's just very mediocre. I do like the fact that there are not a lot of Jerry's. I mean, there's not a single 65 that you can unpack. There's not a single RQ50 you can unpack. There is an 80, so you got to be aware of that. And there are a couple of low RQ legends. But in terms of the epics and the ultra rares, they're kind of generous in terms of RQ. Think about it this way. Ultra rares, right? The lowest RQ is 51. The second lowest is 55. And it kind of just goes up from there. There are some pretty decent cars to unpack, like the Corvette and the Cadillacs, the CT4 and the ACS, for example. But overall, I think that this is a pack that you can definitely miss. There are a couple of new cars in here, but it's definitely not worth your time. Anyway, guys, that's going to be it for today. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree or disagree with my tier list. I hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to stay safe, wash your hands, and blossom out. Peace.
Bro, this song just makes me so happy.
Me too. Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Imagine being Asian in the 50s, looking nifty, leather jacket looking sleek, look like Presley, look so deadly. Got a jukebox back at home, feeling jazzy, turn it on and play it slow, like the movies with the ladies.
They so fine.
Sit back, relax in my Bonneville Pontiac. Hold tight all night, cruise to Jacksonville.